Day 4 of Shelley Silver's corruption trial in Lower Manhattan. Now, key witness Dr. Robert TAUB, he took to the stand again today. TAUB is testifying in exchange for immunity from the prosecution. Prosecutors say that Silver used his office to funnel $500,000 in state funds to Dr. TAUB in return for referrals to his law firm. And the question is, were there any smoking guns, whether it be yesterday or in today's testimony? Well, Politico New York contributor Colby Hamilton, he joins us now out of New York. And Colby, I got Richard Brodsky to my side, who's, as usual, yelling. But the point is, he claimed after 2 days, it has not been a stellar case by the prosecution to this point. They didn't get out of the TAUB testimony what they maybe expected. And even before that, Amy Paulin, the assemblywoman, that didn't even go according to script. Is that a fair representation or not?
Well, I think that the prosecution has some time, right? And as Judge Caproni today sort of said during one of the segments where she let the jury go, that the prosecution has got to build a case incrementally through circumstantial evidence. So they have some time, and it's not going to probably be a smoking gun that gets Assemblyman Silver if they do get him. It's going to be pieces put together, locking together, everything piling up, and the jury feeling like something smells bad enough that that the Assemblyman is rotten. So I don't know that TAUB's testimony was bad for the prosecution. I think that for them it was likely a piece that they're hoping will fit in with a lot of other pieces.
Well, the argument has been that even though obviously the burden of proof, and we all know where it lies, and that at the end of the day, if they paint a picture that Albany is this corrupt, festering pool, and this was one of the three ringleaders of that, that might be enough for a jury. Do you get that the narrative that they're going for is this has just been so bad, and he'd use the three words to define it, including greed at the center of it, that's all they have to do is try and convict the culture?
Well, I think once the jury at the end of all this gets Judge Caproni's instructions on what they're supposed to look for is going to be a really telling moment, because obviously these cases seem, based on public perception of how rotten it is up in Albany and how politicians just do whatever they want. The fact of the matter is because of Supreme Court precedent, it's actually a lot narrower than I think people realize. So certainly they're leaning heavily on the idea that corruption is evident, it's widespread, and that this is just one piece of that. I mean, you see a lot of evidence introduced so far that that includes information about other members of the government. The Attorney General signed off on some contracts. The Comptroller was able to review those and had an audit process if he thought anything was wrong. So you're getting the sense that they're building a case just as much about the problems in Albany, of which Sheldon Silver is a contributing factor, that hopefully the jury will believe that it's so rampant and widespread that there are problems. But I don't know that they're going to be able to just convict him because Albany's a bad place.
Today we heard from the defense, the Passover defense. Explain that one a little bit, if you could, Colby, and homemade matzah, right?
That was one of the so far best moments, I think, that we had in the room. It sort of goes. The defense is trying to argue that Dr. TAUB had a much closer relationship with Sheldon Silver than the prosecution wants to have you believe. They note that TAUB's children were helped by Silver later in life, and that they likely knew each other growing up, and that the judge that his daughter got a internship with, she actually went to school with the judge's son. So one of the main things is that during Passover, they go to a hotel, which was not named, but somewhere, I think the doctor said somewhere between 900 and 1,200 families end up going, and that they were so close that Sheldon Silver even gave Dr. TAUB handmade matzah as a show of his affection. Now, I will tell you, I haven't told anybody this, I talked to the Assemblyman afterwards, or during one of the breaks, and I asked him directly if he was the one that made this matzah by hand, and he indicated he was not.
There we go. Give me a little bit of the atmospherics, Colby, because I know a lot of folks both inside of Albany and outside, and even a lot of attorneys that I'm friendly with saying, this is a trial I'd love to sit in, because especially when you get to the witness list of Shelley Silver, you know, it's kind of surreal, some of the folks that will be questioned given the relationships potentially here. Set the scene for me a little bit.
Well, I think we're hoping for some of that for sure, because that would be pretty exciting. I mean, you know, you hear names like Judy Rapfogel, his longtime aide, chief of staff, members of the assembly. You know, so far it's been very meticulous. It's been a lot of paperwork, a lot of walking through policies and procedures. I mean, today a deputy budget director came after TAUB and spent a long time talking about the budget process, about how much control the speaker had over the assembly budget for each of the members. We saw budgets from 2003 and 4 and 5 and 6 and allocations. So right now, I think everyone that's watching, including the jury, is spending a lot of time sort of trying to soak in the contours of the argument that the prosecution is making. There have been a few interesting points, not least of which when Assemblywoman Amy Paulin accused Stephen Molo, the attorney for Sheldon Silver, of a line of questioning about her husband's income, referring it to as her income, as being sexist. And earlier today, TAUB also generated some irritation from Molo because he didn't seem to want to accept one of the idea that he was concerned about being prosecuted and that drove his actions to cooperate with the government. But so far it's been, you know, it's been just very methodical, a lot of very inside baseball items, including the state budget process. But I think we're all hoping to get some of those folks on the stand who could really bring a lot of interesting things out about the process in Albany.
Finally, got an idea what we're going to hear tomorrow?
Well, it's starting off with this Deputy Budget Director, Franco, again. So there's a suspicion that one of his former top people that interfaced with Silver over the budget process is going to take the stand at some point, but the prosecution is being very tight-lipped about the folks that they're willing to put on the stand.
Colby, I really appreciate a few minutes. It will be interesting following this, and I'm sure we'll talk again before we get a final decision. Obviously, we got Mr. Skelos in the barrel in just a few weeks as well. Colby Hamilton from Politico, New York, thank you so much. All right, when we come back, everybody, we're going to bring the panel back in, and we're going to talk about this trial and where it goes from here.